everyone, my name is Peony and I'm here with Natania.
Hi!
Can you please introduce yourself?
I'm an artist and songwriter from Mumbai, now based in LA and commuting back and forth.
How are you feeling right now in Mumbai?
I feel really good. I'm excited because I just released my new single and it's always good to be home.
Lovely. Okay, Natania, you released your new single Gulzar with an
Yes.
amazing, colorful video. Please tell me how it all started. When did you start writing the song? How did it come into fruition? I want to know everything.
So I wrote the song like almost a year ago. I would say like late July. I was like talking to someone and I was having a conversation in the morning and I was just like spilling all my feelings out. And it was probably way too early, but I was just like, here I go. And you know, he was like, oh, like I feel the same way, but it like takes me time to express myself as all men. And he was like, so just be patient with me.
Yeah.
And I am like the least patient person in general. I was also like premature. 3 months, I was like ready to come out into the world.
Okay.
But yeah, so I was like, okay, no worries. Like, I'll be patient with you. And then I went to the studio that night and I walked in and I was like, he said I have to be patient. Like, that train has left the station. And then that, like, it just, that's like the first 2 lines of the song. And it was with 3 of my best friends now. It was, I think, our second session together. So we had like,
Wow.
we hadn't worked together that much, but it was so much fun. Like we wrote the song, I think, from like 11 p.m. to 4 in the morning. And it was, we weren't even in a studio. It was my friend Subi who's on the chat on this on the song. It was in her office space that was completely empty.
Okay.
So we didn't even have like proper mics, nothing. We just had an acoustic guitar, computer, and like it was just like a rough mic. And we actually kept the original vocals from that day.
I love it.
But it was just so much fun, and it was like we were just like we weren't even thinking when we were like infusing Punjabi and Hindi and stuff. It was just like very natural.
Yeah.
And it was just a blast. Like we played the guitar with spoons and we did like Indian percussive. We were just trying different things to see like what worked.
Yeah.
And like and the song was just born that day. And it was this feeling of just like euphoric. You know when you actually spill out your feelings, you're like so free and liberated but also excited.
Yeah.
So I think like that song kind of bottled up that feeling.
That's so cool. And then did you, for the final version, what are the producers and everything that got involved?
So it was just the 4 of us. It stayed the 4 of us.
Okay.
We all produced the record together.
Okay.
And that was it. Yeah.
And what about the music video? Like, did you direct it yourself? Where did the concept come from? It's so colorful. I love it, by the way.
Thank you. And it was my like Indian princess moment. I knew I wanted to shoot it like in Rajasthan because just when I listened to the song, it, you know, the beautiful arches and the architecture, I was just like envisioning that. And I kind of had the idea of like, I wanted it to be a woman proposing to a man because I think that's very rare.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really cool. And I had the idea of like, okay, you keep, like she keeps dropping hints, but he's like not getting the getting the hints. So finally she's like, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I kind of had that. And then we worked with Sapari Studios on it. And it was incredible.
And who was the designer for all the outfits?
So it was 2 people. So Dolly Pop. She designed my outfit and Subi's.
The green one.
Yes.
Love it.
And there was a designer, Malvika from Jaipur, who did all the dancers and the actors. And she was so cool. Like, she had DIY'd all the outfits herself.
Wow.
So she was like sticking pom-poms on their shoes. And, you know, it was so cool. Like, everyone was just so creative and, like, passionate on set.
Yeah.
It was so fun. And I actually had 104 fever that day.
Okay.
In the cold.
Was not visible.
Yeah, I like tried
So
to.
it was a one-day shoot?
It was a one-day shoot,
Shoot. So nice. And what's next? Like, is this like just the beginning? Can we keep expecting stuff like every month, week?
Yeah, I think like every maybe couple months. I have so much music already.
Yeah.
Like, if you like were to take my phone, there's like 100 songs on there, ready to go.
Yeah.
But just like, since I'm a new artist and like I just want to build my audience, I just want to do a few different songs and then maybe next year do an album.
Lovely.
And just, tell the story. It's all actually one story that's kind of come together, which is nice.
That's so great. And tell me more about your trip in India right now. What have you been up to? Have you been working with any other musicians, producers? What's going on?
Normally I'm like always in sessions here.
Yeah.
This time I think I've just been doing promotion for Gulzar, which has been really nice. And just gotten to see my parents and friends and, the Mumbai rain.
Your parents are here in Mumbai?
They're based here, yeah. So it's always nice to come home and have some safe puri.
I love it. You are with Desi Trill and with Roc Nation, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that journey. How did it start? How did you find them or they found you? Like, what happened
there? I had just been a songwriter for like the last 6 years.
Okay.
I was like, I'd started, being an artist when I first started doing music. But then I was like, I like love writing songs. I'm like obsessed. You can put me in a studio, I'll write like 10 songs in a day. And so I was writing for other artists and I wrote this song for Bella Porch called Dolls. That did well, and so publishers had started reaching out to me. Andrew Gould, who's the president of Roc Nation, DM'd me on Instagram.
Wow.
I thought it was a scam. I was like, wait, why is he DMing me? But it was funny because I was actually about to sign somewhere else.
Okay.
And he reached out and he was like, come by the office. And we just had like the most inspiring conversation about music, and we just listened to demos for like 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
And he was like, I'm in. And we just connected so much. And then literally I'd come to India and he called me and he was like, do you want to go work with J Balvin in London? And I was like, yeah.
Okay.
So
of course.
So like that was like the first thing. And then I was like, okay, we were talking a lot and I was like, this kind of feels like the right home, because I had held out for a long time for my publishing. I didn't have a manager or publisher for very long. And so I ended up signing to Roc for publishing for my songwriting.
Yeah.
And Tai Tai, who's one of the owners of Roc with Jay-Z and Jay Brown, was just coincidentally starting a South Asian label with Shabs called Desi Trill. And they came to me and they were like, do you want to be an artist? And I said no. And they were like, okay, are you sure? I was like, yes, I'm sure. And, he was like, do you want to write for the label? And I was like, 100%. Yeah. So I started writing for his artists. And every demo, I'd get a call and they'd be like, are you sure you don't want to sing this? And I was like, yes, I'm sure.
But why did you not want to be an artist?
I think I was just like in the song. I was like immersed in songwriting. And it's like 2 different careers. Yeah. So like I had just been enjoying it so much that at the time I didn't feel like anything was missing. And like my goal was like, okay, I want to be like Songwriter of the Year at the Grammys in like 3 years, which is still the goal, but now we're adding something. But I just didn't feel like I needed to at the time.
Yeah, makes sense.
And they were like, okay, they didn't push me. And then actually Rolling Stone has something to do with this story.
Yeah.
Because
Do tell.
So you guys did an article when I got signed as the press release for Roc Nation.
Yeah.
And I think you had asked me a question saying like, oh, when is the next EP dropping? And there wasn't an EP. Like I was just doing music for like ads and brands and stuff. So like I was like, oh, probably in September.
Yeah.
Tai read that and called me 3 times at 7 a.m. and was like, what is this EP you're talking about? You said you didn't want to be an artist. And then again, we just had like the most inspiring conversation about, the future of music and like fresh sounds and how India is like, just that's next. Like the same way Latin music happened, the same way K-pop music happened, like, India's up. And he's like, you're already creating all this stuff. Why not be the face of it?
Yeah.
And we just talked and I was like, okay, I'm in. And ever since then, like I started making this music and I've never felt more like myself. Like the shoe just fit.
Yeah.
And
full circle.
Yeah, and now it's so cool because now I feel like I'm doing 2 careers at the same time, and they're both kind of intertwining together in a lot of ways. But I feel just really excited, and I don't think I've ever been this inspired about the music I'm making, and
That's
like
so great.
excited to share it.
Are you able to balance it all?
So far. But yeah, I mean, I'm also like an insane workaholic.
Okay.
So it works.
Do you work in the mornings or at late night?
Both.
Both? I mean, do you sleep?
I do sleep. Everyone asks me, when do you sleep? Because you always respond. Like, but no, I do sleep, but it's just that I like sometimes I'll have a session in the evening, or maybe I'll do an artist thing in the morning, or sometimes in LA it'll be like if I'm in India, then it's nighttime. So I just manage to fit everything in, but I also just love it. So it doesn't feel like too much,
Yeah. And you've made, like I was going through your discography in the morning, you've made a lot of songs with Subi.
Yes.
Please tell me about your story. Like, did you start as friends? What
yeah. So Subi actually reached out to me on Instagram during COVID.
Okay.
She used to live in Chicago.
Okay.
And she was like, oh, I want to write a love song. Like, would you be down to write one?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure. So she actually like hired me as a songwriter.
Okay.
And I wrote this song for her project. And then a year later, which was last year, she moved to LA. Okay. And she was just looking for someone to help her with like where to stay, like which neighborhood.
Yeah.
So she came over and we were just talking about that. And she then was having a housewarming party. And I normally like never go for any of these things because I'm always in the studio. But for some reason I was like, oh, I have to go for this thing. And so I go there, and it's, Subi and Zed and Aman, who now we're the ones that produce Gulzar together. We meet, and there's just Indian food.
Wow.
And there's never like
heaven in LA.
Exactly, in LA, like home cooked Indian food. So we didn't even talk about music. Okay. We were just talking about the food. Yeah. Like, and then for 2 months, we all just went to each other's houses, and just someone cooked, and we had Indian food, and we just were just enjoying each other's company. Okay. And finally, I was like, I think the 3rd time, I was like, hey, I've just like signed to this label, Desi Trill, and like I think we should try and make something together, because Subi is like, I think to me her strength is like traditional folk and Punjabi, and her lyrics are just out of this world. And then, Zed was like a Bollywood producer that moved to LA, and he's DJs and does electronic music. Yeah. And Aman was like a mixer, and he plays these like beautiful instruments like the Esraj,
so
and
the
he
whole
produces.
Gang was there.
Yeah, and it's like really different types of people, like in different types of things in music. So I was like, oh, that would be kind of cool to like combine and see what we would all make together. Yeah. So we did our first session where we wrote a song called Kesara Sara that hopefully will come out at some point. And Tai Tai and Shabs went down. So I was like, why don't you guys come over and listen to it? And they loved it. So the next night we actually wrote Gulzar. And then we kind of just became best friends. And I mean, it's so nice to have like Indian people in LA. It just feels like home. And then getting to make music with your friends is like the best thing ever. And that's why there's so many of the songs together, because we just end up like making them, and we're like, okay, now let's see like what to do.
If it fits, it fits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what are you prioritizing on next after Gulzar?
So there's a song coming out that I was actually very apprehensive to release. Just because I think it's like one of my most personal songs. Even though they're all personal, this one just seemed extra personal. And everyone was like, that's the reason you should release it. And I've been listening to it, and I was like, okay, it feels like it is the right one. So that's going to come out next, probably around end August, early September. And then I'm also just songwriting, working on a lot of different projects.
Yeah. Do your lyrics stem from real life experiences, or do you add some fiction to them? Or
I would say for when I'm writing for myself, it's all from real life experience. Obviously there's like you know, there can be once, like one, I think the core
Add the
of
drama.
it, yeah, there might be a little drama here.
Yeah,
I am
yeah,
a very dramatic person. So, you know, fair. But I would say like 90% of it is like just feelings coming out.
Okay.
Like even the song I was saying that's coming out in September, I wrote that song just in 10 minutes on a piano, and it just like came out, and then I didn't edit it at all.
Okay.
And that's probably why it's very personal, because it just
absolutely.
yeah.
No, there are like less pop artists whom like a lot of people can relate to right now. I think especially in India, of course, we have the Taylor Swifts and Dua Lipas, but like in India, I think we have. What do you feel about the Indian music industry at the moment, and especially the women? You know, because we have less women artists. Let's be very honest. But what are your opinions on that?
I think like I'm definitely seeing more even women just take chances, and you know, even someone like Jonita, she just did an EP, and you know, she wrote about her feelings, and she I think it's just like putting yourself out there, right? It's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I think it's very strong to like actually put it out there.
Because I think like, I mean, think even like if you take Gulzar, like we've all been there.
Yeah.
Like, and it, you know, like every single, even whether it's a man or whether it's a woman, like it's like when I think the main reason for making music is to connect, right? And to have a connection with your audience. And the only way to really connect is to just be vulnerable and honest. And then if you just craft that into a great song, and it's catchy, you know, then I think that mix together just is awesome. But it really excites me to just see more women here just putting out stuff. I know there's that new girl group called Wish.
Yes.
And
Have
that's
you met them?
So I've met, well, so Zoe, I had met her before 4 More Shots, and I was working on that with Mikey, and I had actually recommended her to Mikey for her to sing. So then they met, and I think, you know, that's how that formed, which is really cool. But yeah, like just stuff like that. I think there's more people that are just like taking risks, putting themselves out there, and it's the more of us, the better.
Who's your favorite right now in India? Who inspires you?
As a woman, or just
as a woman, and it could be anybody.
I mean, there's so many different people. Like, I mean, I think Armaan Malik, who's like one of my really close friends. Just getting to see the way he works, and he also like just like thinks really big. You know, there's no like small-minded thought. Like we just have conversations about like world domination and how do you kind of craft your own niche and like do your thing. You know, and just like again, it's just like about owning yourself. So I think that always inspires me. I think working with King was something that was very inspiring. You know, he kind of was just not afraid to take any risks, and that's so inspiring because it just like opens the box to you can do anything. You know, and that I think that's when we win. Like, so I think like I think anyone that's just open and like taking risks and just trying new things, I think that's so inspiring, and you can always learn from them. You know.
And I think on Armaan, I think he's a big fan of yours also, because when we had that Soho House Desi Trill party and when your song played, Armaan was like, "Let's go!" He was the loudest in the room. It was so good to see.
I mean, we've been now friends, I think, since the year before Control came out, which I don't even know how long. Maybe like it's been 7 years. It was like right when the pandemic happened. And I remember we met, and I think one of the first days we made this list together of things we wanted to achieve for him. And I think he's achieved almost every one of them.
Wow.
And it's so cool. Like, and it's so nice having someone like that who gets it, 100%. You know, in music. Because you can kind of, you know, complain to each other. You can kind of be each other's cheerleaders. You like, I think a win when someone knows what it means so much, you know. So it's really nice to have people like that kind of just support you and champion
Now
you.
You've told me 2 stories that kick-started during the pandemic.
Yes.
So that phase was actually not that bad for you.
It was honestly great.
Where were you during that time?
I was in LA. I was actually stuck in the US because my visa had expired. So I couldn't leave because if I left, I couldn't go back. So I actually didn't see my family for like, I think almost 2.5 years.
Oh my God.
That was really hard.
Yeah.
But music-wise, it was actually awesome. Like, I had actually recorded an EP during that time for film and TV, and that kind of did really well.
Yeah.
And that kind of kickstarted a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember actually, we were just talking about this actually, Armaan Malik, because I just had the Times Square billboard.
Yeah.
And he was the first Indian to ever get it.
Yeah.
And it was during COVID. And I remember we were watching it online. And he was like, we were joking. He was like, at least you had people on the street. Mine was, it was just, we were just looking at it in awe. But I think, yeah, I mean, COVID was such an interesting time, but I think it was also a time that we got to create so much because we were sitting at home. So, I mean, I remember even Rolling Stone had done that, the creators issue. Yeah, and like, I think just as a creator, sometimes it's really nice because you just settled in and just wrote.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, like one thing I think that came out of COVID that was great was Zoom sessions started happening.
Yes.
And I put it off for very long. My manager was like, we're going to do a Zoom session. I was like, no, I don't want to do a Zoom session. I want to do an in-person session. So I'll wait. Yeah. I waited 6 months. I didn't write with anyone. And then finally I was like, okay, it seems like this is not ending yet. So I started doing Zoom, and that kind of just was like so cool because I feel like before you couldn't write with someone who was in London, who was in Sweden or India, unless you were to come there, right? Mm-hmm. Versus in COVID, I just started working with people in London or people in like Sweden, like just, and it's so cool because I think that taught us that, oh wow, you can kind of work remotely, even just creatively, and get on like a computer screen and write a great song. Yeah. Actually, the Dolls Bella Poarch song also happened during COVID.
Okay.
And it was a Zoom session.
Great. So how long was that session for?
So it was a pretty quick session. Okay. And what's hilarious is that the Wi-Fi was so bad that we couldn't hear each other because it kept getting cut.
Yeah.
So we had a Google Doc and we were writing the lyrics in the Google Doc. And someone would sing something and we'd be like, yeah, that sounds great. But we had no idea what was happening. So I think like when the demo actually came back, we were like, oh, it actually came together really well.
Yeah.
But it was very tough, under tough conditions, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was also like a COVID.
And which was the first session you had post-COVID? In person? Ooh. And with who?
Oh my God, I don't even remember actually. I actually remember the last session I had before COVID, but I don't remember the first session.
Yeah, what was that one?
That was actually it was with this company, Electric Feel, where I was just writing to their tracks. Yeah. And there was an A&R there that wanted to sign me for publishing. So he had put me in the room. And literally he came into the room and he was like, hey, we have to go grocery shopping right now. Everything's closing. And I didn't know him. And I was like, what? And he was like, everything's closing. Let's stop the session. We go to Trader Joe's and it's like an apocalypse. Like there's no bread, there's no chicken. Everyone's like just grabbing things. And then we were in line and someone was like, did you get water bottles? And I was like, I didn't get water bottles. And I was like trying to just get, and I was just with this A&R who we didn't know each other. We were just trying to get everything. And that session just ended abruptly. But I think, I mean, if I have to guess, my session was probably with like two of my best friends, David Arkwright and Miranda Glory, who I do a lot of stuff with, even the King stuff and everything. And we write together a lot. And I'm guessing that was probably what happened.
Great. What do you think, okay, leaving this topic, what do you think is lacking in the Indian music industry?
I think I think sometimes like I see less collaboration happen here. Whereas over there, I think, and I mean in terms of the writing and the rooms, you know, I think like sometimes like there'll be just like one lyricist and one person that makes the music. Versus I think when, you know, over there when we're in a room, it's like I'm doing lyrics and melody, but there's also like maybe two other writers. And sometimes it's just like magic, you know? And I think like if more people were to do more of that, there could be just really cool stuff happening. Because you never know what's going to come out, right? Like, that's something I think that like I wish I saw a bit more of. But I am slowly seeing the change.
What is the difference when you work in New York with the Desi Trill team versus when you record and work with musicians here? Is there something that like really stands out there or here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think, you know, it just depends like who you're working with. And I think if you're in a room with passionate people and people that are excited about what they're doing, it's the same anywhere. And you leave on a high, you know, which is really nice. And I think like, I mean, one thing I think I've found is even just like people who are like to be more open to change of the music business. You know, whether it's publishing, whether it's, you know, the way you pay songwriters or, you know, the way, I mean, it's the same thing there, but, you know, like talking about master points for songwriters, how a songwriter is making a living. Like, I'm really passionate about that.
Okay.
And I think there's like a slow change happening with that. And just open in general. I think, you know, even like it's funny, even just making a song like Gulzar, which has 3 languages. It's like with radio, everyone's like, well, we can't put it on the English radio because it's not only English. We can't put it on Hindi radio because it's not only Hindi. So it's like, where does it go? You know? And I saw this like a few years back with the DSPs, but it's all changed. Like, because everyone's, like, I think just being open to try new things and like trying to show the audience something that maybe they haven't heard before.
Yeah, absolutely. So how many languages are you fluent in?
So I speak English, I speak Hindi. I'm still, you know, sharpening the Hindi skills. But I've been singing in English, Hindi, Punjabi, which has been fun. And I'm also like learning as I go, which is exciting.
So you like practice them a lot. So, okay, makes sense.
And I'm like, I just try to pick up like little things, like even just, you know, with it was funny with the J Balvin camp. Like I was the only person that didn't speak Spanish.
Okay.
And
so you had a translator?
No, I had gone there and, you know, like we were just talking and I would just go and sing melodies in gibberish.
Okay.
But somehow some of the words ended up being Spanish sounding.
Okay.
And then they would be like, wait, we can make the song about that because you just said rojo, which is red. And I was like, oh. Like, and it was just like gibberish, you know.
That's so cool.
But that's
how many
like,
people were in that camp? And where was this?
This was in London.
Okay.
And I think it was about like 15 people.
Okay.
But I think that's the cool thing about music, right? It like has no borders and like everyone feels the same way. So you can listen to a Spanish song and feel that. You can listen to a K-pop song and feel something. You can listen to a Punjabi or Hindi song and you don't speak any of those languages and you still know what the emotion is doing.
100%. Is there anything else you would like to tell me about your music? What's upcoming? Something you can reveal maybe that nobody knows about yet?
I actually just wrote a song in London with Armaan for his project that I think is, both of our favorite song we've ever written together.
Okay.
And that'll probably be out at some point because we're both very excited about it. So I think that's maybe something I'm like really proud of.
Okay.
And there's a lot of stuff coming, but I'm not allowed to say. Actually, wait, I can say one thing. I have a song coming out in the Amazon Prime movie Picture This.
Okay.
That I'm really excited about.
Wow, congrats.
Thanks. And it's really cool. It's by a South Asian director who also's last name is Lalchandani, which I was like, that's serendipity.
Yeah.
And the actress is the Indian actress from Bridgerton.
Okay.
So I'm really excited about it. It's like a South Asian based movie. So that's something I'm really excited about. But there is a lot of stuff coming and a lot of music coming.
Yeah.
That I'm really excited
Make sure to
about.
give us all the exclusives.
Yes, 100%.
Thank you so much, Natania, for a lovely conversation.
Thanks for having me.
You have great stories. I love your new single. I can't wait to listen to what you put out next. Is there anything you would like to say to our readers?
Just check out Gulzar and everything else. I'm really excited to share it with the world.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.